Welcome to the Liberty or Death channel. Today's video is about the ongoing conspiracy to disarm Americans. To that end, the U.S. House of Non-Representatives recently passed yet another gun confiscation bill. Their votes are a felony under Title 18 U.S.C., Section 241. It's also a violation of their oath of office to uphold the U.S. Constitution. In my prior posts and videos, I proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is a criminal conspiracy to disarm everyone. But we still need to discuss three more topics: the red flag laws, the denial of firearms to convicted felons, and the white supremacist scam. As you know, the red flag laws and the denial of firearms to convicted felons, and other prohibited persons, are unconstitutional. These laws violate due process because they punish you for what you might do in the future. Might and maybe crimes allow the government to ban you from doing anything based on lies from someone, or criticizing the government, or pure speculation. But that's not all. Under the constructive possession laws, their family members also cannot have a firearm in the house, inside a car, or on their person when with the felon. Likewise, even an armed bodyguard, paid or otherwise, cannot possess a firearm while in the presence of a felon. So the number of people barred from firearms is closer to 50 million Americans. Prior to her appointment to the Supreme Court, Justice Amy Coney Barrett questioned whether it was constitutional to bar nonviolent felons from possessing a firearm to defend their life. It is unconstitutional for the federal government to criminalize self-defense because they don't have jurisdiction under the Second and 10th Amendments. But it is likewise unconstitutional for states to criminalize private ownership of firearms. The right to life is the most basic right there is. If you don't have the right to self-defense, then you don't have the right to life. According to attorney Harvey Silvergate, there are now so many federal laws that the average person commits 3 felonies a day without knowing it. This begs the question: if nonviolent convicted felons are dangerous, shouldn't we deny firearms to unconvicted felons as well? What's the difference? The focus should be on Nazi-style midnight raids by gun grabbers. We've seen the face of government evil at Ruby Ridge and Waco. The corrupt FBI, ATF, U.S. Marshals, and special military forces murdered scores of people to enforce alleged violations of federal firearm laws banning certain weapons. Safety restrictions on these weapons are already covered by state statutes, and are not within the jurisdiction of the federal government under the 10th Amendment. The Oklahoma City bombing was a reaction to those government murders. It was an act of revenge by Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols. Get ready for a lot more Waco-style gun raids as Congress continues to violate our rights. We now turn to the government's crackdown on so-called white supremacists. This is really a communist purge of patriots who might resist the government's war on liberty. There aren't that many white supremacists to be a serious threat. Remember when Obama purged the military of alleged white supremacists? Remember when Biden referred to libertarians and patriots as terrorists, along with anyone protesting critical race theory and gender reassignment being taught to their children? Remember how AG Merrick Garland had the gall to go on national television and claim that white supremacy was the greatest threat the nation faced? Now we discover that a special so-called Justice Department task force has been organized to identify and monitor these alleged terrorists. We've also learned that the FBI has been ordered by Garland to gin up violent incidents by using prison fights among a handful of white nationalists in prison. Folks, it's a ruse. It's merely a disguised means of identifying patriots and independent thinkers, in the military or otherwise, who might resist the government's Great Reset communist tyranny. This is how communists work. But whether you classify it as communism, socialism, fascism, Nazism, totalitarianism, or whatever, all of these are simply systems for enslaving the masses. In private, they call it an iron fist in a velvet glove. It means, the rulers intend to dominate us while pretending it is for our own good, whether we like it or not. Acceptance of the useless mask mandates and submission to vaccines, even to the point of surrendering our children to dangerous drugs, are what former Secretary Pompeo called an exercise. This exercise is what the late historian Taylor Caldwell wrote about in her novel, The Devil's Advocate, the epic novel of one man's fight to save America from tyranny. They needed to see how much tyranny people will accept before they move to the next steps. We already see what the next steps are. Rampant crime, open borders, inflation, destruction of the currency, and gun confiscation. These are necessary preludes to the Great Communist Reset. In regards to crime, the reason leftist governors and mayors are releasing violent criminals without bail in New York City, and defunding the police in other cities, is to create chaos in order to justify gun confiscation. In the Soviet Union, criminals were released onto the streets for this purpose. Hitler did the same thing and even hired street criminals called brown shirts, until he decided to dispose of them. Castro also released criminals onto the streets to justify authoritarian rule in the name of protecting the public. Now you know why everything is falling apart. It is an ongoing conspiracy by the CIA-infiltrated news media, Soros-financed political criminals, gangster banksters, the corrupt FBI, and a top criminal named Merrick Garland running the Injustice Department. These are obvious facts, not merely a conspiracy theory, a term crafted by the CIA to attack a person's character instead of addressing their valid claims. It's called an ad hominem attack. The media does this all the time by labeling anyone who questions the prevailing narrative as racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, etc. No debate is allowed. The communist conspirators are now so emboldened they openly brag about a great reset where you will own nothing and be happy. Speaking of the CIA, you might want to grab a copy of the book, Dirty Laundry: How I Stole Billions in CIA Drug Money, Almost. Therein you will find proof of the planned dictatorship by the rulers, along with names of the high-level conspirators, and classified documents related to the government sponsorship of drug importation, money laundering, election interference, murders, and other crimes. As for the unconstitutional firearm laws, you might want to check out another book titled, Ban Assault Bananas.